Yep.
Well, to start off, this is another episode, I guess you can call it. I did one last night with TT, but it wasn't really an episode. It was just more like talking, getting used to being on camera. But, well, we can kind of just go off of what we were talking about earlier about what you said, Fugazi?
Oh, the Fugazi. Oh no, it was just a podcast that
You watch?
I watch from time to time. I see them in my what do you call it? Your options.
Oh, yeah, just
Yeah,
the feed.
yeah, the feed. Yeah,
Nice.
and so yeah, and they do talk a lot about women and their masculinity, and
I feel that. And
and
it's hard
how
because you're just watching that
well
from,
I just watch it, but in the Bible it says though, what I mean, the women must be submissive. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
And men must love, but women have to be submissive. You see what I'm
mm.
saying? And so, but a lot of people take that and they do twist it and use it to however they see that. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? But that's if I'm not
That's what
correct,
you understand
yeah,
from the
that's what I
Bible.
understand
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that right there. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this is what I try to tell everyone when I do a podcast is that like it's supposed to be a space to share ideas, and people nowadays are scared to be wrong,
Yeah.
and it's okay to like have an idea as long as it's not, hateful or violent, and you're doing your best to be conscious in your thinking, doing the research. How does that make me feel? How does that make people around me feel? And from there, kind of just figure it out. So, yeah, this is just a spot to talk about stuff you learn or ideas or kind of like just things that are happening in the world or whatever.
I do like to talk openly and freely, without a guide, but I my filter level is like
Mhm.
I I I don't stay on track when I talk. You know
No,
what I mean?
no, this is
And
the
so like
this is Joe Rogan. It's not supposed to be. There is no track.
yeah,
That's how I made the podcast. This is my podcast, sir. The only track there is the person I'm talking to. So like
right,
every episode, I made this thing where I was like, I my this podcast is gonna be about things that matter,
yeah,
real things that matter, and talking about it in a human and authentic way. And for a while, I was like, damn, does that mean that everything I should be talking about on my podcast has to be deep and meaningful and spiritual? But at the same time, I was like, nah, at the end of the day, I enjoy having conversations with people and getting to know their perspective, their ideas. I'm not trying to prove anyone wrong. I'm not trying to be right. I just like to have conversations. And so, like, then thinking about that same thing, this podcast is supposed to be about real things that matter. In the moment, the person I'm talking to is who matters. So it's like, no matter where it goes, as long as it's something you're interested in, passionate in, and we can go from there. Because
you
I'm a
know what I
conversationalist.
yeah you know what I found a trip though is I see where we went right or wrong raising you guys as opposed to my parents
Mm.
raising us. Because like with my mom and my dad, well, not my mom, but my dad, we were like the first kids he had out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He didn't have no kids in Samoa. So
Mm.
when he came out here, you know, he had us. And then, so, we lived that Fa Samoa lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
Well, we didn't speak the language, but
No,
like,
for real.
you know what I mean?
Lived it. You lived it.
You lived it. Best believe it,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you woke up until you went to sleep, but, it was, I noticed as I grew up, I noticed right away it was a language barrier. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And like
For more for you or for your
well,
dad?
language barrier from our parents to us.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
okay.
Like we didn't have a language barrier when we raised you
Yeah,
guys. We
yeah.
just had a language. We just had the wrong way of
Trauma
delivering.
barrier.
Yes, yes.
Trauma
So
barrier.
so my parents, they were like, more of the, you know, do as I say, not as I do.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And so we didn't understand that, and they couldn't like speak English enough to get the point across.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just be good kids. You know what I'm talking about? They used it like in very violent ways. Just be
Yeah.
good kids. And then the way we raised you guys, you spoke English, we spoke English. And so the communication wasn't at the best sometimes, but at least we knew where our mind was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You knew
yeah.
what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
There wasn't a language barrier. It was just we all as human beings, we create our own barriers, whether it be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how we talk to people, or,
Emotional barrier,
yes,
mental
yeah,
barrier.
but we didn't have that, as opposed to like coming home and wondering, why is this man tripping? You know what I mean?
No, I feel
Like
that.
you live in a ghetto, right?
Yeah.
But you got the cleanest apartment and the whole dirty outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this man was anal retentive, and you got to clean up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's that's something like I didn't understand, and then I watched documentaries in Samoa. Like, they clean a lot out there. You know what I mean? Like, they, because they live around rocks.
They sweep the dust. Yeah, yeah.
Like what you did.
Yeah,
when you were
in
on your
Africa,
miss.
yeah.
So, and so it was just a language and cultural barrier. Like, I know they were trying to
Yeah.
tell us to be right. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Do right, do
They
the
had
right
good
things.
intentions.
Yes,
Yeah.
but like, to not understand, and then not understand in violent areas that you live in, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can't, you can't reach your mom and dad at home, but you go out in the streets, and everybody
can connect
understands
a
you
little
there.
more,
Yeah.
How do you feel like that affected your relationship with your parents?
It affected it, it affected it a lot, because influencing, now you're being influenced by the streets, more than what your parents are talking about, and so, when you don't have that, that like communication, just basic communication, like,
Yeah.
son, I love you, don't do this and that,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're speaking that language, but they're speaking in a whole different way.
Yeah,
So violent, and you're just like, all you see is the violence. You're not seeing the lesson being taught,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? And they speak Samoan in English, so you kind of understand what they're saying, but you're not. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they speak Samoan in their household, they understand. We understood, but we didn't understand.
Because it wasn't like you were
Yeah.
able to go at school and learn Samoan there,
Yeah.
and then be like, oh, that's what they're saying. It's English, so you're even getting farther. The barrier is getting deeper.
The reason why I felt like we didn't speak Samoan is because a lot of, if you ask a lot of your cousins that raised, in Samoan, or even if they're half or whatever, they spoke Samoan in their household. Like, the parents wouldn't accept nothing but Samoan. You go out there, you speak English, but when you come home, you speak Samoan. That's why a lot of the kids sound, kind of like they're from the islands, even though they were born and raised out here.
Yeah.
Is because of the fact that when you come in this household, you speak Samoan. My parents, like, they weren't disciplined enough, to sit there and do that, Like, I felt like, I was kind of low-key cheated out of the culture because of the fact that,
facts.
like, gambling was a big, thing. Like, in the island, they didn't have gambling like they got it out here. Gambling was big, but gambling and beer, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All that, exotic stuff, that America has to offer.
Instant gratification, get a little dopamine.
Yeah, and so that, took them away from discipline. Like, we're gonna speak Samoan, but then get mad at you, like, every now and again when you don't understand what it, like get at you, you 8 years old and they're like, hey, say a prayer and say it in Samoan, and you're like, well, we ain't never practiced it.
We don't got this in the bag right now.
But in Samoa, they can, them kids,
Yeah,
they'll pull it out the hat like
when
that.
we went
you know
to Washington and Antimoloai, and then we're doing like 10-minute prayers in Samoan.
Yeah. See, in
Like,
Samoa.
damn, I don't know how to do that.
So, and like, I always looked at the Samoan kids, when I watched them do the Samoan custom, like, like, because they follow their culture, they're so much, advanced beyond their age than the regular average American kid. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they think more deeply,
okay.
because everything they do matters.
Yeah.
They learn that in the islands. You know what I mean? Like, you broom the floor so the house can be clean. You see what I'm saying? And they understand that quickly at a young age, as opposed to, like, kids in America, it's like, man, I got to broom all the time. This dude,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
They don't get that depth. They don't.
Yeah, that depth, that island people, people in the Caribbean, like
Yeah.
everybody who's like not like totally American, they live in a type of village, you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Everything is for a reason.
It's like they got the community, they got their parents, they got their friends,
Yep.
and they all understand they're following the same principles. So you're quicker to take it in, and you might start out complaining about clean your room,
Yeah.
but then you see your cousin and your friend be like, stop complaining, bro.
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
But you're not gonna listen to your parents. You just gotta see your cousins in them. You know what I mean? I notice in kids, right? As parents, and you figure this out when you get older. Like you'll see something that's important to your kid, right? And then you'll be like, look, this, do it this way, because this is the way, but you ain't always communicated real good like that. You know what I mean? But at this time though, you serious like the boy called wolf, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't, like what I'm saying is like I never always communicated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would tell you guys this, and then you guys wouldn't hear it until the coach tells you the same thing that I was telling you, and then I won't be astonished, like, but it happens to all kids, you know what I mean? I just thought it happened to only my kids, like, you know how sometimes
And that probably
I can get more out of this man than my father.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because he's saying something different, or I don't have the same relationship,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Like, what have you learned when it comes to that?
well, it's trauma, man, like you're not gonna like not water the tree, right? You know what I'm saying? Every day, right?
Yeah.
And they come over there and like, why is the leaves not strong? You know what I'm talking about? But like that's where it came from, trauma. You expect something to happen, like you do a workout once and I showed you this workout and I expect you to continue it, and I come back and you're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here, my expectations, you know what I'm saying, is different from realities.
Or even just like you're a grown man and you understand the benefits of doing this and you're trying to teach it, but then you don't realize that, like, oh, he's still a kid, he's developing.
There you go.
You gotta keep telling them and showing them and doing it, and then eventually they pick up onto it.
Yeah, because my train of thought is I tell you once, you know what I'm saying, and you should know it, right?
Yeah.
But I sit back now as I'm older, right, and I say, because I used to do that to you guys a lot. I tell you once, you know what I mean, and you should know it. But when have I ever gotten told something once, right? And I remember it, So I was like, damn, my expectations was like, you know what I mean? Way out there, you know.
But it's good that you're learning and you see that. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to like parenting, I've even understood and like thought about things that like how I thought before, and now being a parent myself is like, damn, this shit hard.
It is, like, look, remember when you guys used to fall in line, you know what I mean, and sing the song to the people, and they'd be like, wow, they feel the spirit. I think back then, it's like, because I was so, you know what I mean, strict on you guys, you know what I mean, that, they didn't know, like, calling you guys out and lining you guys up. To me now, like I wouldn't, like I wouldn't,
that makes me uncomfortable.
Yes, yes. That's on some of that, Sounds of Music type stuff. Lining my kids up, sing this for these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was wild expectations. Wild expectations. Come from trauma. I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And within the Samoan community, what my experience is, expectations are like, the expectations and then reality. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's just Samoans or any Polynesians who do this, but they have high expectations. You know what I mean? On anything, when they're
sports,
kids.
Church.
Go to the army, you know what I mean? Go to Samoa, go to America, make money.
It's like unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's okay to have expectations. It's okay to have hope and like want your kids to do great.
Yeah.
But like the unrealistic expectation is hoping that they just going to be the best. It's going to be easy. It's going to look good the whole time.
Yeah.
As soon as they see you falter, they like, oh, see, here go. Nah, he not doing it right.
Yeah, yep. Instead of, hey, look, these are bumps in the roads,
Yeah.
But so the expectation you think is like some old toxic expectations, kind of low key. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely high key. It's high key. I've definitely seen it, just like growing up, seeing how, being an adult now and experiencing life life is not easy, and
It is.
not everything's gonna come easy and gonna go smoothly. And I feel like when you grow up with those unrealistic expectations that everything's just gonna go well and go easy, and then when life happens or you go and try and complete something and it don't go easy and there's bumps, you give up because it's like, oh, my family and my cousins said it was gonna be like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to just happen. I'm great like that, and it don't happen like that,
Yeah.
then you give up. And I've experienced that with the podcast stuff. I was gonna stop doing it. I only did one episode, and I was like, this shit's hard, and and I'm not getting no views.
Right,
No
right,
one's
right,
watching,
right.
but it's about consistency. It's
Yeah,
like,
well, you're living in a generation where you got to capture somebody's interest. You know what I mean, and hold it there. Before they leave. You know what I mean, and what do like in this generation, man? It's the interest is so fast. You know what I mean?
yeah, we get
You
so
know,
much dopamine from TikTok,
yeah.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
I don't do all that, but I know I do Facebook for sure every now and again.
No,
But
I feel
I
you.
don't understand what those things do. But I know that they do have people on their phones a lot. You know what I mean? And it must be something interesting on there.
Nah, it's they just know how humans work. They know that they, like you said, they just need to grasp your attention for 15 seconds, and if you get enough humans doing that,
Yeah.
you make money. So
But the ones who make buku money, they're doing crazy stuff. You know what I
Charlie
mean?
Kirk, no.
No, I'm talking about like I don't want to put
You're
no
talking
names
like,
out there, like famous,
no, you can say it. I mean, it's,
famous people who like put their life on
oh yeah,
on live. You know what I mean?
yeah,
When they're sleeping, when they get up, like
yeah, that's crazy.
that's insane. But like that's regular to your generation.
Yeah.
That's why I be telling Hope. I don't want to say I ain't got no filter, man, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm an '80s baby, and I feel like this generation is kind of low key like cooked. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's hard to get
I
a
wouldn't.
hold of you.
I would say on top of cook, because like I'm a part of this younger generation. I'm on the older part of
Yeah.
it, but I'm still a part of it. I think, like you said, the 15-second
Yeah.
attention span. That's why I'm doing podcasts. I'm not going to try and get your attention span. If you don't want to watch the shit, keep scrolling.
And what's crazy is I watched them put in so much money just to get the views. It almost must be, expensive to do the stuff on, because you're paying for your own stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It must be expensive to put that money in. You know what I mean? And you might bust, you might not. You know
And
what I mean?
and for me, that's where I had to keep my core mission. What's the word? I don't know what I want to call it, but I try to keep my purpose intact of I'm doing this because I love to talk to people and I love to have conversations. If it don't go anywhere and it don't get big, it's gonna be a nice little digital diary for my kids to see. Hey, Pops, before he became old and crippled, like yeah. It's like, oh, he was low key, doing his thing, talking, having good conversations, had a good train of thought, and like that's what I'm trying to keep. I'm trying to remember this is more for me
Yeah.
and more for me trying to be an example for my kids and my family in the future more than it is, oh, I'm trying to make money. Like, I hope
Right.
money comes from this, but I just enjoy having
it.
conversations and doing it. So it's like, if nothing comes of it, this is still fun to me.
Yeah, and that's how all the great streamers start, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It got to be a passion. But I just, I did have something, in my brain, but it just left. But yeah, man.
Well, going back to one thing that you said about growing up, like I don't know a lot about I mean, you talked about it, but what would you say was the hardest part? What is one thing that you wish you could change about the way you were raised?
Uh,
Specifically in the culture and just in the way your parents raised you, like what's one thing you would change if you felt like it would benefit you?
it would have benefited me if I could change the way how my parents were raised. You know what I'm saying? Because if I could change how they were raised, you know what I mean? Because just listening to my father and my mother, you know what I mean? My mother's the oldest, you know what I mean? So you know what responsibilities come with the oldest. My dad, he didn't have a great relationship with his dad. His dad was literally the guy who chased his kids with with a machete around the village. Okay,
Damn.
that's your great grandfather right there. You know what I mean? They call him Ki Malepelu. You know what I mean? Like his name is Keys. That's the chief name, and the Pelu is a machete. You know, so they didn't have a great relationship. You know, and that's his mindset in raising me in America, though. You know what I mean? You know, I think if you raised me in Samoa, I would have got it more because I spoke the language.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I could change something, and this is deep though,
Get
this is the
into
only
it.
way,
Yeah, go ahead.
to answer this is I would change, not, like, 'cause if my parents were raised good with parents who supported them in anything they did, you know what I mean, and wasn't critical a lot, you know what I'm saying, because that's what makes our, Samoan culture, like beautiful, but like garbage at the same time because criticalness, you know what I mean? If they weren't critical, so critical on them or whatnot, and
And when you say critical, do you mean like
yeah,
judgmental or like
and expectations and all that
okay,
stuff.
unrealistic
We were talking about.
expectation and judging? Okay.
Because that comes with it, you know what I mean? Because to them it's as long as you dream it, you know what I'm saying, and you do it, as long as you dream it, you know what I mean.
It'll come true.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't, it's your fault.
Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And dealing with coming into America.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
And when talking to my dad before he passed away, he would tell me his regrets of not having a relationship with his mom. You know what I mean? This man. This coming from this man is a very hardcore man. You know what I mean? Like I never heard him exchange feelings with me like this. And as he got older, we just had this like 2-hour talk. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he was just, telling me, like he never listened to his mom regardless. You know what I mean? So that goes to show you either, he was that bad of a kid or the only reason why a kid don't listen to mom is because he see the dad not listening to the mom or whatnot.
There's no structure.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of dysfunction.
And so he that's why he regretted not, having a relationship with his mom. You know what I mean? Because I'm like over here asking him questions like, where did we go wrong here? You know what I'm saying?
No, for real. He said, I'm trying to
think. Yeah. Like, let's write this boat because I know you ain't got enough time. You know what I mean?
For real.
And I didn't see my mom before she passed away. So I just got to,
You just kind of like had those
I had Uncle
conversations.
Tyler for my mom, you know what I'm saying? And my dad for my dad, you know what I'm saying?
And you just had a conversation with him?
Yeah, man, for 2 hours, man, we
What'd you guys talk about?
We just talked about his life.
Did you let him know how you felt? Because
yes.
You let him know, like, damn, bro, you hurt me.
Yes.
Bro. Like, emotionally.
Yep. And he cried and apologized and everything. Like man, we had 2 hours of some deep, conversation.
How did that make you feel? Do you feel like it helped you, like, release some things?
Like, about time, about time, because, my siblings were like, you crazy, you let him live with you, you know what I mean? It's like, no, we just had this deep thing that I didn't think he had in, a heart like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where we, he heard me out, you know what I mean? But he heard me out because of respectfully how I presented it to him, you know what I mean? I know if I would have, told
came
him,
with the anger.
Yes.
You in a way that's like the anger that he put on you, that in a way you feel justified for it. It's like you could go that way, or you could be like, you know what, I just want you to know, like, this is just how I'm feeling.
Because it started off with him. He just called me out of the blue. He was frustrated and started talking about his mom and everything. And then
his mom was alive?
No, his mom, passed away.
He just called you randomly?
Yeah, he called me randomly, man, and we started talking, and then he said his dad, was very violent, so you know what I mean? And so I put it together like this is where his violence came from. His dad, you know what I mean, was violent to him, and so
that's all he knew.
Yeah, if he would have had a dad better, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's not his fault that his dad was trying to beat his ass.
Because his dad was a chief, and you see the stress he got on him. Not only he got to take he got to take care of his kids, but they hounding him every day. About stuff villages. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look, the sink. The drain is backed up. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, the fires didn't come in.
Basically, like the pastor's children, where it's like the pastor goes up to the church and he's this godly man, but then he got all his stresses that he keep packed away at the house that this family got to deal with.
Because he take care of the village, you know what I mean? But when it comes to his kids, it's like, pop, you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing something. And
it's also probably because it's like you guys are my image or my reputation. If you guys acting up, they gonna question me as a chief and as a leader kind of thing.
Dang, that too. I remember my
So it's
dad
like
was telling me.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
My dad was telling me they had a hurricane, like a tsunami or
Uh-huh.
whatever, and it's what you call it? It's logged in YouTube, but
Yep. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
and
We got time. We got like 2 hours.
which call it? It was a hurricane. So after the tsunami or whatever, they went to the chiefs and they gave all the chiefs, the American people.
Who told you this?
My dad.
Oh, damn.
Because the chief has to hold all the food. Like because no cars or anything coming in, so all the food is gone. So now this is America giving the food to Samoa. You know what I'm saying? So every chief, you know what I mean, in a village gets the part for that village. And
So they're receiving the help,
Yeah.
and that chief has to go and distribute it
Yeah.
to his
Yep.
village.
Yep, and my dad was talking about that particular storm, you know what I mean, and because I was like, how your dad was the high chief? You know what I'm
He's
talking
like,
know?
I know how the police be. He's like,
Yeah.
you telling the truth?
Yeah, because
My grandpa was a chief.
yeah, because see, I looked at it now, and any young man could be a chief. You see what I'm saying? It's just you're not the highest chief, but you're a chief. You know what I mean? Because because I was like, wait, why is both my grandfathers chiefs? You know what I'm saying? But then that's what you get a chief title. Man, I got a homie. He was born in Samoa, right? He left as a baby. You know what I'm saying? And just raised in the hood, right? Don't know no Samoan. Right? None. I mean, you know how we talk, how we get down, you know what I'm saying? And so he get locked up and then, they got to transfer him back to Samoa, So he don't know nobody there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He, you know what I mean? Like last time I talked to him, he was like, all right, homie, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna try the best I can. Next time I talked to him, right? He was like, Sully, what? I was like, hello? I was like, is this Falaco? He was like, man, who's, I worked for three Tala. I was like, Tala. You know how to say Tala?
What's that?
That's what the money currency is. You know how the Asians got yen?
Oh, yeah. And
We got the Tala. You see what I'm saying?
Damn, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So that's the name of the dollar
Yeah.
in Samoa. It's called.
Yeah.
I guess the dollar is U.S. dollar, and then
Yeah,
Samoan currency is
I
tala.
ain't never been to Samoa. I ain't never been there. I just know though Tala. I know what Tala means.
Yeah.
But my homeboy, you know what I mean? Like he ain't never said another Samoan word in my life. He almost speaking full blown Samoan to me and told me he got a chief title. So I was like, you just got to Samoa in 2 years. You got a chief title. So is my grandfather like one of them chiefs? You know what I mean? Like they just
hand it out.
You know what I'm saying? Or is he one of them chieftains? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you got me thinking the whole time when I was young. You the big dog. So I asked my dad. I was like, "What kind of chief is he? Like, was he just like a regular chief?"
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I don't know, Junior. When the hurricane came, and they gave all the food to the chiefs. You know what I mean? Yeah, he said his dad had the the long icebox things. Yeah, and I guess only the chiefs have that. And they just packed it for the food and he just handed out. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's his story.
You were just like, all right, let me do some research.
But I know my mom's dad was a high talking chief too. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he was the real. Uncle Tyler tell me everything. You know what I mean? But he also served in the military too.
Oh, okay.
So my mom, you know what I mean? Like, where did she go wrong? I don't know. Because she came from a respected family. You know what I mean? But I know that if my dad, so going back to that question, what would you have changed when you were young?
Yeah.
I think if I would have changed my dad's life at least, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We would have got, we would have got the dad that my mom saw. You know what I mean? When she first met him. You know what I mean?
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Like, the guy she was introduced to when she first met him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
But how did that happen? Like,
how did it happen?
Like they just introduced them? What you mean?
It's crazy. All right, so moms is a rolling stone. You know what I'm saying? Your grandma is a rolling. You remember grandma, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she had other kids. Yes. Damn. I have an older brother. He's German too, man.
The Germans they got their piece of the land on.
I mean this brother of mine, man. But he's German, and I have 2 other brothers and a sister. You see what I'm saying? And she had them in Samoa. They were chilling in Samoa. She flew down to see Auntie Lay. Remember Auntie Lay? Yeah, and Uncle Pete was working at a club, you know what I'm saying, in Long Beach. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So he told my mom, you know what I'm saying, hey, come to the club, you know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
then before you go back to Samoa, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Okay.
She went to the club, you know what I mean, and she saw my pops, and it wasn't no going back to Samoa. It was we were
Damn.
born, you know what I mean?
And then damn. And then for and then for Gramps, what was he doing at that time?
Okay, so my family had a connection with the shoreline people, to work you know, the
The the shore,
you know where
the cargo?
yeah, the cargo, the
Yeah,
cargo
yeah.
come from China and all that.
Yeah.
What is that thing called?
Freights,
I
ships.
forgot. The shoreline or whatever.
Yeah, just
People know what I'm talking about. In
yeah.
Long Beach, especially if you from Long Beach, you know what I'm talking about. It's the pier, or
Yeah, he
yeah,
said whatever that is, they were over
yeah.
there.
And well, my family had a hookup. Well, my dad said he was the last one to leave. Him and his mom,
Mm.
was the last one in Samoa in the village, and that's why
Yeah.
he was regretting his relationship with his mom because that was their last time, just them two. You know what I mean? Because they
Mm.
were the last ones to come over, and
Out of
and
all his siblings.
yeah,
Why
so
were they all? Okay, finish what you're saying.
no, that's
No, I want to hear this, but I can remember the question.
okay. What you call it? And so they came, and there was, then we had the Palangan guy who hooked up my family. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he hooked up a lot of Samoan families. But
Yeah.
if you hear some interviews of some OG Samoans, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
they'll tell you too. Like Compton, Harbor City. Depending on where you stay, it's where you're working at,
Yeah.
on the dock or the ship dock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people work on the cargo, so you in Long Beach. You know what I mean? Carson. These are main hubs that Polynesians who didn't go to New Zealand,
Okay.
came down over here.
So it was either go to New Zealand
Or
or
come
come
to
to
Cali.
Cali.
Yep,
Okay.
that's what it was. You know what I mean?
Damn.
And so my dad and them came from Samoa to Long
Cali.
Beach, and
Yeah.
he worked for the shoremen. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Shoreman, yeah, yeah. And he worked for them. I think he worked in the oil refinery. That's why we lived in Long Beach. But his brothers, everything, shoremen, all that, they were doing all that stuff, anything, because they're Polynesians,
Yeah.
working next to the boats on the, in the water, that's second nature.
That's California. It's like Samoa a little
Yeah.
bit.
So that's what my dad was doing. You see what I'm
Okay,
saying?
and this goes into my question: why were Samoans coming to America?
Because like listen, okay, like, and I'm gonna give you this so you'll know, so you can understand yourself. If I tell you, what I'm saying, no, if I take you to a place and raise you there to where it's just as big as St. George and that's it, okay, would you want to stay there or would you want to leave? If all you can do is go to the other island in St. George, that's the end of St. George, and
Yeah.
water. You know what I mean? Water everywhere. See, Uncle Laka, he thought he could want to go to Samoa, and then he thought he was going to run away. So he went to the other side of the island. It was an auntie right there. Took him right back, and he was like, dang, I traveled, all the way on the other side of the island. Yep. This is everybody you know. This is everybody you know.
Yeah.
You want to leave. You know what I mean?
You gotta leave.
Yeah.
So you're saying that a lot of
to get a better chance, because what you're going to do is you're going to stay there, work on a plantation or work some low level job. You're still going to be struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can come out here, my dad's single, he got no kids, work at the
make money.
Yeah, oil refinery and make 5 or 10 times more than you would make selling kalo on the side of the road. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Not facts.
So, because he was telling me, like his dad and them, they're fishermen, about how much money you going to make, fishing the same fish that he got. And then both of you guys going to the market looking at each other, keeping the flies off the fish.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody picks your fish, not his fish.
Yeah.
This is how my dad explained it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Which makes sense because that makes sense. So then everyone's leaving.
Yes.
Everyone's leaving, right? Because they want a better life. They think it's better in America.
Oh, peep this though. My mom, my grandfather had a lot of girls, but they all married guys from the army, the Palangis. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's first husband was Palangi. You know what I mean? Or German.
Like like the Philippines, how like a lot of women.
Yes, yeah. So I think 3 or 4 of my aunties, they're married Palangis. You know, that's why on my mom's side I got a lot of like Afakasi, like white and Samoan. You know, but then my dad's side, you know, it's like like I think
Straight Samoan.
no, it's
Oh,
like
for real?
if you go,
Damn.
you'll think it's a Meuli party because like
Oh, because
Uncle
Cali,
Mitchell,
because
yeah,
it's in Cali.
Uncle Mitchell and us are the only full blood Samoans. Then
Uh-huh.
all my cousins is like half black
Yeah,
or half
from
Mexican. You know what I mean?
all over Cali.
Yeah, and
'cause
they
that's
don't look Samoan. They just literally look, like we homies chilling on the block or something. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
no, this is my cousin.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. So my mom and them they married off, into the, to
Those the army men.
yes, yep. This was so my older
Damn,
brother.
was there trauma there? There got to be trauma there.
It was trauma to the kid she left behind because
Oh,
she
shit.
left. She had a older son.
Mhm.
He's on Facebook. I see him living his life, man. You know what I mean? I wish he met me when I was young, and he said, he gave me $5. I mean, this guy looked like Tom Cruise, man. He had his like glasses on. He knew he was.
Was
gonna
he
be
from the
some-
army?
Yes,
Army too?
he was
Yeah,
a military.
yeah.
He was like he took his cigarette out. He said he opened his little trunk. I saw straps in there. He moved all his military stuff.
Yeah.
Went in there.
Back in
grabbed
the day when it was, he was
Yeah.
rolling around like
Yep.
that. Let me give you
that
$5.
Tom Cruise. He pulled out a little thing. And pulled a little $5 out. Gave me like a one, and he said, "Write me. If you don't write me, this is gonna be the last time you see me." We was in the hood. You know what I'm saying? He was
Damn.
fresh off about to go on the
Like he
military.
knew he was about to
Yeah.
go do something.
Now you see him. He's just living his life. You know what I mean? And I was like, dang, I should have wrote
But
him.
damn,
Yeah.
but how old were you?
But see, this is the thing, though. You see, this is my mentality back
I was
then.
gonna say you in the hood, you a little
we
kid.
we was in the hood, but we was, I was 12, my brother was 11, but we banged out though. You know what I mean? Already, so it was like I took it as like, oh, my mom has another kid. That was crazy, right?
Damn,
and then
that's how
he's
you
coming,
found out?
Yeah, and he's coming down right now. I'm like, dang, that's crazy. But he coming here, he balling. You know what I'm saying? Everything's balling. But we here though. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you coming to us, you telling us, you see it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the gutter, this is the down low, like
Yeah.
you come in here with that car and you see us here, you gave us $5 and he said, write you. And then he left, you know what I mean? And it's like, and at nighttime you hear the gunshots and then you running, you doing.
You go back to you not it goes back to what you said about you not thinking deep like that.
Yeah.
You 12 just
That's all I was
mobbing,
thinking. Like,
scheming.
yeah. It's like my mom right now. We ain't in a good situation, but you supposed to be my brother. You see my mom. You love
You
her. and
know
everything.
where we're at.
Where we're poor. You got enough money now.
And you a grown man.
Yeah, you got enough money now. You know what I'm saying, to take me out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Us out. It's just me, Laka. You know what I'm saying?
And he going to just give you $5 and say, write me. Like, I don't know how you write a message.
You know what I'm saying?
How am I going to get it to? I'm going to get it to the post office.
Tomorrow, am I going to live tomorrow to write that letter? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand, like, the 90s, in the 90s, you walk out your door, you don't know if.
In Cali.
Yeah.
During
you
that
don't
time.
know, you know what I mean? You don't know, I didn't seen Last Cousins when I said, all right, goodbye, you know what I'm saying? That's the last time I seen him, like, that's unpredictable life was back then, so to give little kid, which it was good to see him, you know what I'm saying, and all that, but in my mind when I was young, instead of taking advantage and looking at it on a positive side, I was always like, people say they're related to me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But the relation I know was like, like, we eating noodles together in the hood, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cockroaches, we there,
Yeah.
And my family that I know was there is the family that I know was there, you know what I mean? But I know I do have other family members, but
It's not the same type of bond. You ain't going
and
through
that's
the
why
same
sometimes I think, funerals are kind of low-key scams because it's like, funerals is where you see all your family, right?
Even
But
the
it's like-
ones that balling too.
Yeah, and the ones that's balling, but it's like some of the family you just meeting, we're close related, but we're just meeting, and you want that instant gratification from me. But I'm down in the gutter, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm just meeting you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you look like you're doing better than me. What could we possibly have in common? Right now, I need to live this life. You
And
know
it's
what I mean?
like how you, even though we're family,
Yes.
we're closely related. It's like you don't know me.
Nah. And I don't know you, so we shouldn't really say we're family, even though we're blood related.
Yeah.
Because that's big in poly. We're blood related, so we're family. You know what I mean? But blood. Hey, let me tell you about blood related. That that could be a whole nother topic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, meeting my brother for the first time was cool. I wish I'd have thought now about it like that.
Yeah,
I would have made different. If somebody would have sat down and really, really taught me, but I don't. I'm looking at myself, and I don't think nobody could have.
that was me when I got married. I was
Huh?
like, I look back like, damn, why was I acting like that? And then I was like, even if I travel back to that time to be like, look,
Yeah.
you need to
You
understand,
still
you need to
wouldn't listen.
love, you
Yeah.
need to be empathetic. I would have been like, all right, I'm doing that.
Right. Because it's just like see, so you can't tell your own self that because you already know yourself. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? You already think you're doing it right. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying? And that goes back to that story I was talking to you about the prodigal son, right?
mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks it's about the prodigal son who left, you know what I'm saying? Tricked off all his money, right? Came back, you know what I'm saying? Begging for his father's forgiveness and his experience in that life. That's what it's about. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not really, if you get deep into it, right? It's about the son that was working in the field.
That never left.
Yeah, that never left. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what happened, right?
Yeah.
The pops had a party. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Big
then,
party.
yeah, and the son was out there hating. You know what I mean? He was over there in the field, working himself off, just like a lot of people. I don't want to say in church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're working. You know what I'm saying? They're working off. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't know where his wrongs like that. He's mad. His brother. You know what I mean? Took the money.
And his life, in
Yeah.
his IE, like my brother left, took
Yeah.
the money, and he coming back trying to be all good now. But it's
Yeah.
like that experience. He's
And
coming
he was
back
like,
with
my pops over here sacrificing the pig. Like he couldn't even let me and my homies get a
Yeah.
little something, something. We worked the hardest. But see,
Yeah.
that's what I think, a lot of people spiritually, right? When they go to church, like the church people are the hardest ones to tell them like, hey, do you think,
Like
you could do it a different way
like
than this?
look out, open your eyes a little more.
Yeah, yeah.
Open up, be a little more empathetic,
Yeah.
feel a little more for people,
Yeah, those are the people that's hard because they're already doing the work, so they don't see
or feel it.
Yeah, and they're thinking that maybe you need a little bit more church, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you can tell a
That
hooker,
deep.
yeah,
That
you can
it's
tell a
that
hooker
deep.
like hey, you need to change your life. She's sinning. She
Yeah,
knows she's
yeah.
sinning, so she gonna accept it more than a person in church who don't sin a lot, but they're doing
Because
something wrong.
they're going to church, reading
Yeah.
scriptures,
Yeah.
taking the sacrament. They're like, I'm doing the work. I don't need to do anything
Now
else.
you become that guy in the field while everybody's over here grateful. They're not grateful that he tricked off the money, of course not, but they're grateful he's alive and in health. You know what I mean?
Not only the life and health, it's the experience.
Yeah. Yep.
He came back with experience to be fully invested in the family now. He's saying, hey, I don't care about money.
Yep.
I'm here to serve my father
Yep.
and be a part of the farm. And that's more valuable than the pig he's slaughtering and the
Yep.
party he's throwing.
Yep. And that's the main point, is like, it's not about you working in the field. You know what I'm saying? It's about helping people. You know what I'm saying? It's not about your works. You know what I'm saying? Let it be about your works as long as you don't expect nothing back from it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You do it and you do it. You put out that positive energy, just naturally. You know what I mean? But don't put out this
Chase
positive
it.
energy.
Don't be trying to do it
Yeah,
with
and you
purpose.
see somebody doing the shortcut and you're like, look at this person. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna continue to do my right. It's like
that's where I'm trying to get. That's where I'm trying to get. I feel the emotion sometimes with this podcast. Like I said, I'm trying to be like that where it's like I'm not trying to get external validation. I'm not trying to do this to
That's
be
good.
to be like, I don't care if people look at me like, oh, he's great. It's like, are you getting the lessons out of the videos?
Right.
The views don't matter if it's not changing anyone emotionally, helping them become better humans. That's the point of the village. Create good humans.
And
If it's not doing that, it don't matter.
what I love about your generation now too is like a lot of you whether it's Polynesian content creators or not, like, well, I'm just speaking straight to the Polynesian ones, like how they opened our culture up a lot. They did, you know what I mean? Because like we don't, back then when I was young, we didn't talk about like how relatives used to touch other relatives. You see what I'm saying? That type of stuff was like, and I'm pretty sure every culture try to hide that underneath the rug. You know what I'm saying? But I was content creators nowadays, especially the young Polynesian ones, I give props to because they open that window to say,
They're being vulnerable.
To say like, yes, it happened. You know what I'm saying? And you guys are creeps. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes there are creeps there, but like still got them at your barbecue. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? You know,
yeah.
dapping them up. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And you
this.
don't know what that does to the people that are there that are victims of that
But you
creep.
know what? This this Uso, he has his own podcast, but um, he said that we should get all those child molesters, you know what I mean? Take them in the backyard, you know, sock him up real quick, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And just tell them don't do that no more, you know? Which I love the idea, but that won't solve nothing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I'm not. I'm always down for a little. It's
But what I'm saying is like, you know, if it's a real problem, you know, and it really happens, you know, and these creeps here, stop inviting these creeps to the functions.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
what are the solutions that are gonna have lasting change so
Yeah.
that we have less creeps?
In the function, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Running up to your kids and hugging them. You know what I'm talking
yeah.
about? You know, it's like, you know,
It's like that's a crazy place to be because you're trying to be accepting and loving as a family environment. You don't want to ruin the whole thing, but it's also like,
it's irony in it, man.
no, that's crazy. I think one thing I'll say is that when it comes to the Polynesian culture, for me, the what I want it to be is like being inclusive. I don't know what the word is, but I think I love the Polynesian. When I did research on like principles and spirituality, it's like, oh damn, most all spirituality in ancient cultures had the same kind of beliefs, different words. But nowadays, it does feel like we're losing that that essence. And I don't want to say it's America's fault, but
You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes because, like I
yeah,
told you, when my parents came down, like my parents grew up in Samoa, you know, so
mm,
they knew how to do fa'aus, you know what I'm
mm,
saying? You know, they grew up, you know, making the going getting stuff, you know, ready for Sunday, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Everything God and all that, you know. They didn't grow up gambling and, you know what I mean? Drinking and stuff. You know, they snuck a little beer, you know, that, you know, Islander little
yeah,
mixed brew they had, you know,
yeah,
but they weren't coming out here. You know, when I came to know my dad, he was a full blown, you know what I mean, like alcoholic, you know what I mean, alcoholic, drug addict, you know, and all that, and they didn't have that like that in the
What would you?
islands.
What do you think would have been a better solution then? Do you think if they were leaving the island to come here because they thought it was going to be a better life, and they ended up finding more instant gratification through gambling, through
All that,
drugs, through alcohol, like would the better answer been to stay on the island?
you know, for those who can't handle, you know, you know, America, you know, stay on the island. Maybe, you know, like if you put it this way, you saw what happened when they came here, right?
Mm.
Do you think it would have been better if they stayed on the island? You know, how much trouble could they get in the island?
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
People on in Samoa that's doing life, I think they come home on the weekends. You see what I'm saying? You know
No,
what I'm talking about? You
that's
know,
crazy.
on some real stuff though. You know, I think they just barely built their actual serious prison in Samoa. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? You know, but
And they probably don't have as many of these crazy, complex, disgusting type of crimes.
oh, they do,
They do? Damn.
man, they do. You
Hey.
know, because you know, like, man, and I'm not, you know, like 100% sure on this. This is
Yeah.
just from my experience
Yeah.
and you know the information I gather. You know, like you know, a lot of, you know, like in the villages and stuff, you know, like they have this thing, you know, this place where they send young teenage girls, they pack with Samoan girls, 16, 15, 14, 12 children, their mothers,
Mm.
you know, from chiefs and uncles and
These 12, 15, 16-year-olds?
yeah, 11, you know what I mean?
Damn.
Like, man, it's this place that houses all those girls. You know what I'm
They
saying?
take care of them? Or they
Yeah, they
just.
got their kids over there, you know,
Mm.
they're taking care of them and the kid, and they're letting the kid get adopted. You see what I'm saying? You know?
Uh, well,
So they don't talk about this, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But like, you know, like I see it, I see it online, you know?
But then
Yeah.
all this makes me feel is like what I'm trying to do with my life now. And
No,
a
what
lot of
I'm
it
saying though, like
a lot of it came from Charlie Kirk. Seeing him die
Yeah.
was like, what was that nigga fighting for? And to me it was like, yeah, he believed in God, Jesus, and those things are good, but like what change was he trying to bring? Was it like, I just thought that, and maybe I'm looking at it from a narrow perspective, but to me I was like, damn.
you know what I see about this Charlie Kirk thing?
Mm,
You know, to tell you the truth, to be honest, you know what I
mm,
mean? And you know, like I'm not worried about anything, you know, but this is my opinion, you
mm,
know. like it's funny because a rapper said this. A rapper said this. Biggie Smalls. You're nobody till somebody kills you. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how
I didn't even
important
know who
was
that was.
Charlie Kirk? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before he died. You know what I'm saying? To you.
He was just another YouTuber. I
Yeah,
didn't even know him
that was
like
spitting
that.
some facts. You know, I can agree with most of what he said. You know, he was just one
Yeah.
of those guys. You know, and then once he got assassinated, you know, like man, I'm on YouTube and I see these people almost giving their life to him,
glorifying.
like yeah, you know, and like I know my God is a jealous God. You know what I'm saying? And like some people, a lot of people, and I'm talking about church people. Like if you're not down with Charlie Kirk, unfriend me and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm a child of the Most High. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I love Charlie Kirk, but I'm a child of the Most High. Above Charlie Kirk and everybody else, and I know our purpose. Charlie Kirk is a good guy. You know what I'm saying? But I know my life wasn't Charlie Kirk's purpose. You see what I'm saying? But he, like there's stuff that I agree with like 98% of what he said. You know what I mean? But I don't think any human being is gonna agree 100% with another human being. You know what
I'll
I'm
tell
saying?
you, I've met some that say 100.
Oh yeah?
I met someone last week that said I watched all the Charlie Kirk stuff and I
Wow.
believe 100%. I was like,
100. Well, hey,
that's like, hey, well,
if you're
you might as
100,
well get on your knees. No, I'm joking.
if you're 100, get a sweater. Sew in 100% and just walk around with it.
Yeah.
100% Charlie Kirk, because I know that I like the Charlie Kirk, and anybody pushing positivity. You know what I mean? I got my eye on them now.
What do you say about people? Because I looked into Charlie Kirk too, and it's 50-50, right? There's people that love him, some people that hate him. Why do you feel like some people would not like Charlie Kirk or hate him and not like anything that he's saying outside of like the Jesus and God stuff, but like what he was trying to fight for? What?
The Palestine people hated him. Because he's pro-Jewish. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. Let me switch out the battery. Hey, it's going good. Hey, you
I forgot we was doing this. I'm just talking to you. You know what I'm talking about?
keep rocking. Okay, let me switch this out and then we'll go for a little longer. See, it's not. That's how I want my podcast to be. Is a conversation.
Just unplugged. You know what I'm talking about? Like, let's talk about it. What is it? Let's talk about it. Why isn't people not talking about it? Why are people scared to talk about it? You know what I mean?
That's why I built my whole life. I feel like it's been
like
part of this journey because it's like no one can tell me, hey, you shouldn't be talking about it. Nigga, don't come and get a cut then.
That's just like someone say, I agree 100% with Charlie Kirk.
For real. If someone is,
I don't know who said that to you, but they capping, bro.
No, for real.
They
but like if
capping.
someone comes into my studio like, oh, I saw your podcast. I don't know if I agree. Okay.
Then you can leave. That I just don't understand what's wrong with conversation. Conversation is
what makes change.
Yeah, and it what runs the nation. There you go. Tupac said that. I don't get all my quotes from rappers, but like right now
I get a lot of mine from.
Right now I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Conversation rules the nation. It helps create change. There you go.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you even said this. If you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, what I stand for is love, truth, and empathy.
Yep.
I may not say it all the time. I may not look like it all the time, but that's what I'm striving for. Trying to speak the truth. And it's like, if it's hurting your feelings.
That's what my answer was. Questions was going to be. What if it hurts the feelings?
Well, and that's okay. Like, again, if someone's not speaking hate, like racism and active violence, and they're just having ideas and they're trying to talk about it, and they're willing to see comments, for example, be like, oh, damn, I didn't see it that way. Let me do some more research. Oh, damn, I didn't know it was like that. My bad, guys. I take that back. I did more research. If you're not willing to be wrong, then you can't be talking. No one is 100% right. That's the problem.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, there is one person 100% right, and he's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's up there.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be, at the end of the day, that's a good symbol and figure. Like for me, I still don't know what I what I believe in 100%, but I do know that Jesus was a great leader and someone that stood for stuff that I believe in. So do I want to strive to be like someone like he was? Yeah. But everyone's different. Everyone's got different beliefs, and I respect other people's beliefs as long as you're not trying to force it on me.
Yeah.
You know, we can talk about it. We can have, different opinions, and I can see where you're coming from. But like, that was another thing that I think I didn't like about Charlie Kirk, using his beliefs to prove or justify why his way is right.
Or his ways. He can't just be that way. He's using. You're saying he's using
Yeah, like trying
the
to
religion to
use
say
the
that's why I do
Bible,
it. Yeah.
the church, and it's like, I had a conversation with someone, and I get why it's would I rather people believe in Jesus and believe in God and repentance and salvation. Yeah, I would rather them believe in that than believing there is nothing and nothing
Right.
matters. But I think that it can definitely be used to control people, and that's my thing. Is you gotta you gotta live consciously. If you're not thinking about what people say, trying to understand it, like just believing in someone 100%, that's crazy.
So I understand what you mean by live consciously, because, if you look at it, putting all your worries and everything on something and just not worrying about it no more, it's easier than to sit there and say, nah, homie, you need to still worry, you know what I'm saying, and do what you need to do to get out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's easier to just say, I'll just put it on God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like, nah, don't do
you
that.
Gotta do you gotta do the work. You can't just say, hey, God is saying that we have to act this way, and that's why I act this way. You know what I mean?
That's
no, are you acting this way because you want it? But what do you think? To change your gears real quick. What do you think about, like, do you think, because you have two sons, right? Do you think your sons should fear anything, and if so, what?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll be honest. I think that fear should never be in the equation. I think the answer is love. They should have love and understanding of things, and that love will guide them. I don't think anyone should operate off of any type of fear. So, like, even if you believe in God, I think people, instead of being a God-fearing man, should be a God-loving man. And because fear can make you do some, questionable things,
Is there healthy fear, or is there not?
Yeah, I feel like there's instinctual things that are part of our biology, like anxiety. There is a level of anxiety that humans are like have a default of, and that's
so you're saying that there's normal fear, like, ow, that's hot. Don't
do that.
Yeah. But
like
but you don't think you can use fear in a sense of like
to control,
like I saw this quote somebody said on Facebook or whatever, and it said on Facebook, I'm old, but
I'll be watching Facebook.
It said children should fear the love of their dad or something like that. I mean, they made it look so convincing because of the music in the background, right? And the kid hugging the dad, but then they said,
go ahead.
Children should love to fear the dad or something like that.
Or fear dad's wrath or something.
Love.
Or
something like that. Or
children
need to fear dad, so they can have some. Basically, they're saying, like, you got to mind your dad, so that way you can mind the world. You know what I'm saying?
Learning how to read your father and not go too crazy to receive discipline, but you're basically saying just like respect your dad,
so that way you can respect the world, and everything that you do. But it said it as children should fear their fathers, but the way they said it in the music that was playing in the background,
sounded good.
And the kid that ran, to the father, it looked at all convincing that they should fear their father's love. But I get what they're saying, but they said it the wrong way. You know what I mean?
And they're also trying to use the music, the emotions to make you feel convincing. And this is what I'll say to the like God fearing, because I understand people believe in that. I do not think my son should follow what I say because he's scared of me. And for people to believe that it's healthy or it's okay to fear God, it's like if me as a normal human that's not a God can teach my kids to listen to what I say through love and through respect for me, because I've shown time and time again through love, discipline, structure to follow what I say and to trust that when I say something is right over fear, then I don't
Yeah.
think God should operate that way either. God being an all-knowing God and all-powerful, and you got to get people to fear you, that sounds crazy.
But hey, Pete, this though, being an all-knowing for God, right? Right. So he's all-knowing, right? He's very powerful, right? So he can do without us, right? So why would he create us to praise him? You know what I'm saying? Why? He's the Almighty. Like what do he need us for? Right?
No, facts.
But Pete, that's how important we are though. You see what I'm saying? You know, and I was just telling Hope that, you know what I mean? Because, you know, like a guy what do you get a guy who has everything? You see what I'm saying? You know, a bunch of people to praise him. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he knows how much he's worth. You see what I'm saying? So why did he create us to praise him? You know what I mean? So he could feel good, stroke an ego or something. Like, you know, what kind of God do we got? You know what I'm saying? You know. But then I look at it as, you know, hey, if that God needs us, you know, to be here, you know, to be good people and to, to show him, hey, this is why you know, brought us here. You know, I'm going to act accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Make sure I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? I'm going to let you know that you're the reason why. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
You see what I'm saying?
That's interesting.
If he's doing all that, you know what I'm saying? Imagine how special we are. You see what I'm saying? You know, that he needs us to praise, you know, to get his praise. You know what I'm talking about? You know, because he do, you know what I mean? Or else he wouldn't have created us. You know what I mean? You know, it's like, you know, I'm going to create a bunch of these Play-Doh kids so they can, you know what I mean? Yeah, live right how you're supposed to, or you might lose a limb. No, I'm just messing with you.
That's like, oh, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? You know, so if you look at it that way, it's like, wow, like, you know, why does he need us? You know, but then you look at it as, man, that's how special we are, though. You see what I'm saying? You know, like what you're doing. You know what I mean? You know, you're trying to do, you know, your agenda. You know what I'm saying? And you're trying to do it. You know what I mean? And you know, in the way that you do it. You know?
Yeah. Nah, look, at the end
You
of the
feel
day,
me though? You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, like
I think it's just, this is what it goes back to. I feel like, and this is not like challenging you, like I respect that way of thinking and believing in God like that. And again, like it's better to, I feel like it's definitely better for people to have a God or something that they believe in and are willing to do good things for out of respect. It teaches them a lot of things like humility and selflessness. But I think for me, what is more important is everything around us, like living more consciously. And I feel like a lot of my belief systems definitely try to live like our ancestors lived. And a lot of it was like knowing that everything is infused with the essence of God. God is more of like a something we call it, but it's like something that's in everything, and that's why you should love and respect everything. Love and respect, you know, the trees, the air, the humans. When you live with that kind of like mentality, I feel like you're willing to be more empathetic and loving towards every creature on earth.
most definitely.
It's easier to look at, especially when you try to make God into a figure of a man, for example. Then it's like, what do people? You will project your own biases and everything that you believed in creates the type of God you see. I can go and talk to two people from the same religion, and I can ask them to describe to me what God is in 10 words, and they might get 5 to 7 of the words the same. But those other 3, 4, 5 words are going to be different based off of their own experiences, their own traumas, their own preconceptions and biases through their life. And I feel like that's a hard place to be, to know like, okay, what is the real meaning? And for me, it's like, I don't know what the real meaning of God is, but I do know it's in everyone. It's infused, and that's why everything is spiritual, everything is godly, and you need to take care of everything. And I feel like if everyone had that mindset of love everything, have empathy, you still need to eat. So, for example, our ancestors, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but our ancestors, when they killed something, they prayed over it, knowing that this is a part of the universe of God, that we give gratitude. Towards this animal for living its life and following the laws of
On some
biology.
Avatar type stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Avatar is the best way to describe it. Like,
Right.
those people definitely live more consciously than Christians. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now. But if you ask a Christian, they're like, "Oh, that's so primitive."
But do you think Jesus Christ was a Christian?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I do not. Jesus wasn't even white. So
So I'm saying, like,
Jesus was of this color.
Yeah, he was Jewish. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
And if you're saying that Jesus was Jewish, then it's like, what did Jews look like back then?
Yeah, they you know how they look. They look Middle Eastern. You know what I'm talking about? You know?
Hey.
So you're saying Jesus wasn't Jewish?
No, I'm not saying Jesus wasn't Jewish, but no, I'm saying that, like, what did Middle Eastern look like 2,500 years ago?
Yeah, black in the mug, you know.
So
dark, not black, but dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like bronze.
Like yeah.
What
you know, like when they fought for
hair
Jerusalem.
like wool.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. Like sheep's wool.
Yeah, that
sounds like an afro to me, but
no, a laid down afro. That's what it was. It was one of them. You know what I mean? You know,
I don't know how that looks, but they literally said sheep's wool. The sheep's got that 4C. You gotta pick it out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I ain't never seen a Jew with an afro though.
Huh? The Jews today are definitely not the Jews of 2,000 years ago.
Where'd they go?
Hey, that's a deep rabbit hole we could get into another time. But I'm telling you that.
Hey man, Jewish people they've been trying to erase Jewish people's history since before Hitler. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you know, Jewish people, the most persecuted people. You know, I feel like, you know, it's my opinion, you know, because they've been persecuted since, you know, like how black people say, you know, like we were slaved for like how many years?
In America, 400.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you know who was the first one to own a slave?
Who?
A black person. Did you
Who
know
do
who
you?
sold slaves?
Africans.
Huh? Not
Africans in the
Africans.
Atlantic
Africans
Strait.
helped the Indians in the Atlantic gather the slaves. You see
Because
what I'm saying?
we could get into that.
No, I'm saying like I just know this. I mean, when you go do your research, you'll see that the first slave that was ever purchased was from a black person
What do you mean in America or
in America. Yeah. So slavery didn't just happen to black people. Slavery happened since slavery
No,
has just been
definitely
done like through the, you know what I mean?
No, it's always been a
You
part
know?
of human life, but is it right?
Yeah, I'm saying, but going back to, like people think the most, well, in America, a lot of black people think that the most persecuted race is the black people, right? And I understand they've been through some stuff, but then we look at it, right? And we look at, like how many slaves you think died since slavery began in African slavery.
I don't even know, maybe millions.
Millions, right? Do you know how many Jewish people died when just Hitler himself? We're not going to talk about Rome, you know what I'm saying? And back then, I'm just talking about
6
history.
million.
You know what I'm saying?
No, but even then, it's
but
like
that was like before. I mean, Rome. You know what I mean? They just like not just Rome, but when came and took all the Jewish people.
Wasn't
out
there?
of there. You
But like,
remember that?
what I'm saying is like, if we do DNA and we trace back, Jews were originally black.
Well, the oldest living fossil was found in Africa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They can't
There was
find
a genetic.
race. It's just like
they did. There's a geneticist who went and took blood from all different types of people, and it ties back to, I think it's called the San people in Africa, and they made a documentary. It's on YouTube.
No, what I'm
You should
saying.
go watch it. It's
What I'm
called
saying is like
Journey of Man.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is like you can't dig up bones, right, and tell if it's gay or not, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You can't tell what race it is or anything. You can tell where it belongs.
No, I
see
feel
what I'm
that.
saying? But we can't tell if the pigment of the skin of the actual
No, I feel
skeleton
that.
was black.
We're talking about like they're able to do DNA tests and see where all of humanity connects to today, where we spawn from, and it's in Africa.
So new discoveries.
This was like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. I'm saying like the oldest fossil, that was found was in Africa. I mean, if it's African, it got to be African because it's in Africa, right? You know what I mean? But what I was talking about was
Oh, we're talking about the Jews.
The Jewish
I was
people,
basically saying that Jews were
Jesus,
the ancient Jews were black.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, there is a theory of that, I mean, who knows, man? I'm not saying there's not, but they do have a fighting argument. You know what I'm saying? Like the argument is concrete. I saw the documentary
on
the African people that's right there by the Egypt.
Okay.
Where they found those old churches, those Christian churches, and they do the 100% of the Bible. They didn't take out all the stuff that they took out in Nicaea. You know the meaning of Nicaea, right? Well, that's how we got the Bible, because a lot of after Christ, this is like I'm just telling you this.
Yeah.
But after Christ, people were taking like if you do telephone, right? By the time you get to the last person, right, he says something different than what you told the first person. This is what's happening with the Christian thing. So what they did was they grabbed all the books, and in Nicaea, that's where they had this meeting with all the popes and the bishops, because this pope was doing something crazy in Christian. You know what I mean? This pope was over here, executing people in Christianity's name, know? And all these guys were getting taught, but then going back and doing their own thing. So they gathered everybody together, and they started taking out the books and all that. That's why the Muslims were saying, that the books were good until they started doing that, and then God told them not to follow that no more. You see what I'm saying?
If you believe that or know that that's true, then
I mean that's a fact. It's history.
Yeah. Well, like if that's a fact, then
that's why they don't have like
what
Enoch. The book of Enoch is kicked out.
No, well that's what I'm saying. Yeah. If you believe and you know that's a fact or that is a fact, and we can look it up and prove it, then what does that mean for today using the Bible that we have today? If it was tainted, is it more just for righteous path? It's better to be part of something that stands for good.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing underneath the rug to keep it like, official. That's what did you just say?
What part?
just now. You know, it's better to have
Oh,
something.
have something
Yeah,
to.
so that's like what like a foundation of what people
Okay.
build their stuff on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You know, because then if you look at it, you know, after they did all that and they had the Bible,
yeah.
you see what I'm saying? And then you had King James.
Hmm.
You see what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. They really
And
put together
yeah,
to control the
you know, and
people.
he threw the curveball in, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
to try to control the people, and ended up getting killed himself. You know what I mean? By
yeah.
trying to, you know, do the Bible to it what it's not supposed to do. You know, and so it's like now you got the King James version, and then so they refreshed that version
Hmm.
to it's called literally the new a revised Bible.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So there's no thee and they and thou no more. You know,
Mm.
they talk straight to you. You know what I mean?
Oh damn.
Not only that, here's the message, but we're gonna put it in English for you so you can better understand the
Hmm.
message. You know, so now you're changing like you know the whole
Yeah,
thing.
and
It's called
sometimes you're gonna lose some of the actual meanings. And
yeah, yeah.
well, then I want to ask you this because I saw
It's
this
crazy.
video about how Christians and how they believe in God now is different than how they believed before medieval times, like you're saying, before
Yeah.
they changed things in the Bible.
Oh,
Like they said that they, and this is where I kind of get my idea of what God is, not from the video. I already kind of had it, but it kind of proved it. Like, dang, it all was like that before. He was talking about how, through actual studies and like texts, that they did believe that God was more of like an essence, a bubble that like encompassed everyone. Everyone has a piece of that, right? They're in this bubble, and it gives everything that godly essence to them, right? And then after,
everything like the ground you walk
yeah,
on, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
all the way to
And that's where it's
yeah.
like, our ancestors connected to the nature and to the ocean, those things. And then after the medieval times and all these different like changes were made, that they started to believe that God is a man in the sky that strips the godly infused like essence of people, nature, and puts it in the sky, and now it's an it and not a whole thing. What do you think about that?
I still believe. I don't, you know,
Yeah.
man. I I don't think the God I believe in
Mm-hmm.
is a mere man. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You know, I believe He is. You know, an essence. You know what I mean? All around us, in
Mm-hmm.
us, through us. You know what I mean? There, and everywhere. You know what I mean? You know, you
And
got to.
do
You
you
know.
believe? Do you say more of like a? And so when you say God is more than a mere man, is it more like you don't view God as a man,
No,
and you're
I
just
don't.
using it for more like a spirit, or like a to help people understand,
I,
like to grasp what you're saying, or is God to you a man that like is a part of everything, and it is still a person?
I
Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
when I'm talking about God, I'm talking about the Most High. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? You know, so I don't think you can equivalent the Most High to just a person. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because if he is, then I don't think he'd be worth praising.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
If he's just like you and me, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You know, and so my God is the God of Most High, the Most High. You know, the only one of his kind. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? You know, and so the God of what they say, Abraham, Isaac, and
Mm-hmm.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that God right there. You know what I mean? And so that's what I believe in. You know what I mean? And
Getting kind of going, because I do want to understand like you and like with God, because that is interesting to me. Like, what does that look like for you? Is it more like when you pray, like, because for me, when I pray, or when I used to pray, it's like it's not like I ever saw anything, or you could say you feel the energy, or you can feel the spirit,
yeah,
right? But like, what does that look like to you?
I don't. Anything I feel is hard to try to describe how it looks like.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Because we're talking about feeling and not vision. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like like for me, I just because we do have to have faith
Mm.
too. You know what I mean? The belief in not knowing everything.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's the
Because
one thing I
yeah,
will agree with, is like
yeah,
I've accepted. I don't
yeah,
have all the answers.
yes,
Don't know, but it's like you still gotta go and do.
Yeah, you got to believe in something. You know what I'm talking about? Because of the fact that, we sit here and think, oh, it's just up to us. You know what I mean? We'll be worried about a lot of things. You know what I mean? And that will stress the average man out. You know what I'm saying? For me, our God isn't a man, so He expects us. You know what I mean? To be a reflection of Him, right? So try to not do the manly thing. Try to worry more about, like you say, the love and why we're here. You know what I'm saying? The energy we give off, when we're here, and doing what we're supposed to do that is right, you know what I mean, and not harming nobody, and yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
It's more about just spreading that positivity and love, and more like as you do that and as you grow, you don't need to worry about what happens next, because you're doing, you're living consciously, loving, being empathetic, and like God will take care of the rest.
Because of the fact that and it's been proven, scientifically it's been proven. If you sit there and you live that positive energy, right, it reflects off of everybody you live with.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And so they're like, man, and that's why I love being around Uncle Nale. You know what I mean? Because when I walk I just feel that positive spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That because he'll tell me, man, he gets persecuted a lot, man, working where he works at. You know what I mean? Like,
why?
Because they everybody at his job is not believers. You know what I mean? Of his faith, and so but when I meet him while he's in his job, man, it seems like he's been keeping it spiritual the whole time. Because I feel the energy. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you can feel the energy in people. Like, when you just walk up to them, you be like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, I just got a charge. You know what I mean? Yeah, you've been talking to the Most High a lot. You know what I mean?
What would you say if? Do you feel like you felt that with your dad at the end, like that he was reaching that kind of understanding, or? Not even if it's the same belief, but do you feel like he was reaching that place of like good energy, good vibes?
When he first got, remember he got locked up twice. Yeah, but that first time he got out, because he was actually sober. You know what I mean? And he's been sober for a while in prison too. And so, I just never seen him sober. You know what I mean? And that's the first time we had like a 2-hour talk and he's sober. Like, I understood everything that came out of his mouth. There was no longer a barrier. You can tell wherever he was at, they was teaching him English, because this man did not sound like this. Junior, from my heart. I was like, wow, we going there. Did
you end up crying?
Yeah, man, because
you got to. There's
it's like you gotta understand, the man I knew as my father was this dude who hung around with the thugs in the neighborhood, and either gonna lay you out or gonna lay one of them out today. Who's gonna be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the type of person he is to, son, I love you, and I wish I could have had a relationship with my mom. Like, I ain't never heard this man talk. None of my cousins, when I told them that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they didn't
believe you. They were tripping out. Damn. You know what I mean? They were like, he said, what? Like, yeah, man. He talked about Grandma Esau, you know what I mean? Because they all know, the parents, like,
How did that make you feel?
What?
That whole talk. Did it change your...
It did.
Did it impact you?
Yes, I made him live with me. Regardless of all the stuff he put me through, I let him live with me.
That's the second time?
The first time.
Oh, okay.
And the second time. It's because of that conversation we had. So, later on he messed up and did drugs. And see, when he was with me, he was good. You know what I mean? Very unhappy, but he was good because he knew I wasn't going to let him eat crazy stuff, and people were accustomed to drinking and gambling. They want to do it every day.
Yeah.
But you see how I had my pops, on a strict, what I mean, diet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want you to live longer, so we finna do you, this way. And he didn't like it, too much, so he left. And when he came back, you know what I mean? Same thing, because I remember that conversation we had, So I know you don't like me for doing this to you, but in order for me to enjoy you long enough, I have to force you to eat the right way. You know what I mean? And eventually, when he passed away, they looked underneath his bed. He had a candy store. Like, see, when he was living with me, you remember those times?
Yeah.
He was upset because he wanted something sweet, and I'd be like, Pops, no, You're not going to do
can't,
that. You know, my
yeah.
kids don't even eat sweets, you know. So, you know, because he was like, where's the soda? You know, my
Yeah.
rule in the household,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, ain't no soda, Dad. You know, sometimes, you know, hope people get a freezy, but, you know what I mean? There's no soda
I
around
feel
here.
that.
So he thought I was doing that to him. Like everything that
Yeah.
I already had accustomed to my house,
Yeah.
he thought I did it all like to change my life. So he won't like, you know, but I've been raising you guys off of no soda and
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to stay off of the sugar and stuff like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So when he came in, that was just the program, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it coincided with his diabetes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, when,
Dang.
yeah. You
That
know?
made me think of something. What?
This is a cool podcast because you can cut and strip and
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
all your little things, man,
Yeah.
to turn a 2 hours of yapping into some actual
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what you do.
Yeah. I just honestly, I don't really cut anything out for the long video. If someone wants to watch the whole thing, maybe they're at work and they just have their AirPod in, listening to the whole thing. They're just trying to listen. Like they might laugh.
So you don't do the like because I'll
The
watch.
clips? You
Yeah,
talking about?
clips.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
clips.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But like I'm saying like for the long
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
just post it. I take out, make sure it starts from when we start talking,
Yeah,
and I cut it where it ends, and that's what I put on YouTube, like the 2 hour version.
that's crazy.
But then I'll take those clips and go and
It just remind me of those nights I used to do your highlights.
yeah.
Man,
It's long hours.
yeah, you know, I was just like, and then one time I spent like 3 hours on your highlight, right?
Mhm.
Your football highlight. And then I still missed the actual one of Lil
Yeah.
Wayne said, and I posted it because I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then I looked in the beginning and you already had that face like you already heard it already.
Yeah.
I guess you heard it already before I played it. And I was like, Wyclef. That
Yeah,
Wyclef
yeah.
part, you know?
Yeah.
I stayed up late just to make it perfect and still messed up. So I can imagine,
Yeah.
you know, like the editing people
Yeah.
do.
You
But,
just gotta keep going.
yeah, because when you make clips of things, you know what I mean. You know, clips are the reason why people come back and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, they'll see like a part you might have talked about.
Yeah, a point that was got, you know.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Let me go watch the whole
Right.
thing. Let me see what they were actually like. What the whole conversation was about."
See, you already know that. I was just thinking about that just now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I didn't. That's another way to. That's the reason why I watch No Fugazi and all that because they'll bring up a point in it that you hit the point right there. But then I watched the long one. I'm like, dang, you gotta listen to a bunch of BS just to get to that point
Yeah.
right there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I think for me, when it comes to that, I'm just like, our generation is cooked if you can't go watch,
Some reality stuff.
or like if you can't watch and sit through some of that stuff. Like not all of everything that we said right now was like, oh, this is just golden.
Yeah.
There's pauses, the camera died and stuff like that. But like, I'm gonna keep getting better at like keeping it all within the time.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, at this point again, I'm just doing this because I enjoy talking.
I literally saw Joe Rogan talk about 3 different subjects all at once. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
They was jumping through it. So, because, you know, when I talk, that's what I do a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you notice,
Yeah,
I jump from one spot
I
to
got
another.
that from you. I do that.
For real?
Yeah.
But then I'll come back to it, what we're originally talking about.
But it's like after 5 minutes, then you're like, oh yeah. So just to answer the question straight up, it's like, no, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, you do the same thing?
Yeah, I do it. But being in the podcast, I've been learning a lot about asking good questions and being more of like letting my guest talk and me just be more of clarifying for them, like, oh, what do you mean by that, and just asking good questions.
Right,
and then whenever I feel like interested to get in the conversation, I try to remember to let them finish, and then if I still remember what I was trying to say and it's like relevant, I'll say it. If not, it's like, hey, he's vibing, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna just let him talk.
Yeah, so all my interviews, like, you know, I did an interview on this one podcast, and he chopped up my whole interview, and it looked better. The interview was way better than how it originally went because I was all over the place. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I know I'm all over the place. But when he chopped it up, you know, man, he took out all the, you know what I mean?
And for me, that's cool. This is what I go back to. That's good. And like, that's just him being a skilled editor, or he paid someone to like really edit it.
Probably paid
For me, it's like, you gonna see the real.
Right.
If you can't sit through a real conversation between two humans, you're cooked.
or you ain't my day ones. You know what
No,
I mean?
yeah,
Because
no,
this is
well,
day one stage right
yeah,
here, huh?
yeah. So it's like if you can't, because like at the end of the day, I'm gonna have clips. There's gonna be clips, but
Yeah.
it's like if you can't sit through like a 30-second. I mean, even the clips are gonna just be like a point. It's gonna get to the point. But honestly, it's more like I just enjoy talking. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, if it don't go anywhere at the end of the day, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
If you're not, keep
Oh, it's gonna
strolling.
go somewhere because there's always hus everywhere, man, and they just when they love the product, you know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
hear what the product is saying. You
No, I
the
feel it.
product, you know what I'm talking about?
Nah, but that's the thing.
So
It's like, man, there's got to be depth to it.
yeah,
That's
I
my
mean, but
thing.
that's how they get in the door. They're like, what are you
No,
talking?
facts of that. That's
Right,
called pretty privilege. It's a real
right.
thing.
There you
But
go. Pretty. I'm gonna use that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I likes that.
like I realize when I see some people, it's like, dang, they don't really provide any value, but the video's cool. Oh, it's because they're cute, or oh,
Right,
they
right.
have an attractive aesthetic. People just our brains as humans like to see pretty people doing cool or even dumb things. They just want to see someone attractive doing it, and it's like, damn, that's messed up.
That's crazy. Did you have this idea to do this yourself?
Yep,
That's crazy.
I just like that '90s vibe. You feel me?
Yeah. What you
Old
know
school
about that
vibe.
'90s vibe, man?
Not much, but
Did you just bought a bunch of records?
I went to the thrift store and they just had like a.
They probably had some classics in there.
I mean, this is what it was.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even read any of them. I don't know. I just went, what looks cool on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, look, this one, I like this one because it's red. It got the Indian. I like this one because the color.
I like this one because just the whole ambiance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like just like the beach vibe. I like this one because the blue. Yeah.
So what you call it? So, you know, is there anything personal like we can't talk about?
No, I don't care.
Yeah, man. Because I don't care neither, man. You know what I mean?
I
And
really don't.
but I'm saying so who would you say is the more jealous one out of you and your wife?
I think it's. I don't know. I'd say me. At least, yeah, me.
What?
Yeah.
Hey man, I don't ever remember you being jealous at all, man. What happened?
Nah, it's just like when you find something that you really love, it's just like,
Preach it.
that's yours.
Right.
It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. I
So
feel that.
when I was young, like I was very like you couldn't even accidentally rub on mommy, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Without me saying something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like I remember I lost my cool one time. We young, we catching the bus,
Yeah.
So you're gonna be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna put a timer just because I'm losing. I just need to make sure we get through a lot more stuff because this is going well, and having the timer on just helps me stay on track. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and we're on a bus, so there's gonna be some
You
contact
told me
with other
this
people.
story like 3 times, but
Hey,
it's okay. You go
but
ahead.
but
Go
this
ahead.
is how it
Preach.
was,
Yeah.
because when I say I'm the jealous one, you the jealous one, like you the nowadays jealous.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like there's no like no overreaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was all about that action. You know what I mean? Like action jacks. The guy said, "Excuse me, love." To you that's like, oh, he's just scooting by. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, I don't know what I heard. You know what I mean? But I heard what he heard and what you heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was translated different.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you finna,
You love my girl?
you finna like rub up on, and then he walked past her like this. I didn't see the hands up. I just saw, oh, you rubbing. So I got her, and you know what I mean? Like I literally went on a bus stop, went all the way back to him, you know what I mean? And was just very jealous. You know what I mean? And he was like trying to like snap me out of it, like, hey, no, man, like this, it's nothing like that,
Yeah.
But all I was like, because your mom, like, man, she could have chose anybody, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but she chose your boy. So I'm like, I never let nothing slide. I don't know what you call that now.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
On site, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
Yeah, now it's because I know I got her now. You know what I mean?
It's more like you're more confident and secure in the relationship.
Yeah, now it's mommy don't Mommy don't play no
Now
more.
it's switched.
Yeah, man. Yup. You switch because to me, I ain't spend this long of a time with any type of woman. You know what I'm talking about? So
Yeah.
I know after a whole year, oh yeah, this is serious. You know what I mean?
That makes me think about being in a relationship. What is Do you feel like you understood what being in a relationship was like gonna be like? I mean, that's an obvious answer.
No.
How about this? What is one thing that you didn't realize about being a dad that you realize now?
Um, what I realized, yeah, is gentle and understanding and gentleness first and foremost. Gentle. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a child's anything. You know what I mean? Is gentle. You got to deal with it gently. You know what I mean? And slowly and understanding. You know what I mean? These are words that didn't cross my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I
Because you didn't get gentle, so it's like to
yeah.
you it was normal to do
But
it that
the
way.
whole time in my mind, I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like that guy in the field saying, I'm not gonna do what my dad did. You see what I'm saying?
I did the same thing.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but what I realize now though, because we're here now. You know what I mean? Can't nothing we could do about the past, right? We're here now, and what we think now is kids, any gentle. You know what I mean?
What helped you realize that?
Well, Papa is my first grandson. You know what I mean? And he is gentle, like to the last word. So when Papa's like, Grandpa, and you say what to him, you know what I mean? That's not, it's Grandpa's, yes, Papa. That's how you have to talk to him,
Yeah.
because if you talk to him regular, he'll tell you, I'm just a kid. You know what I mean? Because, so with Papa, like, I thought, that my daughter was babying him a lot, but being around him, I understand now. He's different. I mean, like he's so gentle, but you look at him and he's like
He's big.
yeah, but he's very gentle. Like
Yeah.
he's like a gentle giant. If I would have understood, see what I understood about Papa now make me want to rewind time and raise Robert a different way. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like. Because I'm not saying Papa and Robert's the same, but
No, I know what you
because
mean.
Papa's so gentle,
You can see a lot of Robert in
well, I could have seen
Legend.
how it would have benefited Robert if I like was
Took
more
that approach.
that approach.
Yeah.
There you go, that approach, because he would have picked up more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he does tell me he's grateful because I didn't raise him like how we supposed to be. Special needs and you know what I mean?
Or just like acknowledging that that's there.
Yeah.
I do feel like I think a lot of times from my perspective as an older brother and just looking at that and being a dad now, I do feel like you were just more triggered in the way of like that he's using that as an excuse, or that the world is using that as an excuse.
Either him or the world. Either way, I was fighting both of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so seeing that mommy and Sana and PJ treats Papa gently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're consistent, and when they do that, I follow suit too. Because now we got me and Papa, man. Like we didn't have a relationship at all. It was just him and mommy. But then, because I, pay attention to what I say and how I say it around him, I built a great relationship with him, and that makes me think, man, I wish I could rewind time and
Implement these
yes,
things, yeah.
Because it, whatever it takes, whenever you reach whatever, like you saw that you did wrong, like take a moment and just pat yourself on the back, because at least you noticed it. You see what I'm saying?
Like, at
People
least
go through their whole life and not know.
notice.
They're like, I don't know why my kids treat me crazy. You know what I mean?
It goes back to that thing you said about the Christians. It's like, I'm in this field. I've been doing this. Why ain't they understand me?
Yeah, but that's what really something that I lacked, but I noticed that kids need is gentleness and paying attention to them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so glad I'm not stuck on the phone. You know what I mean? So when my grandkids get me, they get the whole me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so yeah, you know, and I'm saying this because like I've been watching my grandkids, you know, for a minute, you know,
You watching them like
a lot
basically,
lately. Yeah,
and
yeah,
they live right next to you, so it's like you've been watching
yeah.
a lot of them.
So I got to know them, and now I see grandparent thing different because before I was like, we grandparents. That means like they take care of their kid. We pick them up for a couple of days and then drop them back off, you know. But sitting there and having a relationship with my grandkids, and it's like I want to pick them up, but you know, like I love them so much now, you know, so I don't want to drop them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And now they live with us. You know what I mean? Like coming to see your kids. You know, it's hard. You know, like because I spend my time with kids a lot. I know what kids require, and because I'm around them, you know what I mean. When I wake up, literally when it's dark, till it's dark, you know what I mean. I'm with these kids.
You're able to learn. You're being the parent that you wanted to be back then. You're able to. You're healing a lot of things that you didn't have back then. And
because of the fact that, like, they're my kids, but they're not my kids. So therefore, you know what I mean? Because I always had this train of thought, I ain't going to treat my kids like that. My kids are going to be this and this. Yeah. But I would never treat, see, that's the contradiction I do to myself. I would never treat another kid like that. You know what I'm saying? Like how I treat my kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and that's another thing that Samoans do. You know what I mean? Like they would like, you know, down talk their kids in front of people. You know what I'm saying? Even though like they're good, like say they're good at football, right? They will down talk him in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Thinking that that's good. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, when
where do you, I'll tell you what I think it comes from, and then I want to know where you think it comes from. Like,
well, you know, that's kind of like, you know, what my parents did, you know what I mean? Like, you know, my mom, you know, like, just like she had no filter when she had friends, you know what I mean? Like, when she had friends
she's like
around.
Putting you guys down and
not
stuff.
You guys, me.
Oh, you know what I mean? Just you?
Well, you know, because, like, she knows she could be honest with me, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'll walk by and they'll be like, oh, that's your son? Oh, that's a nice son. She'd be like, what? He gangbangs and sells drugs outside and robs people. And I'd be like, Mom, man, I'm just trying to get some water. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And, you know, I'm just passing through trying to get some water. You know, I don't know who these Samoan people are. You just told them my life, but that's my mom's, though. You see what I'm saying? You know? And so, you know, in front of people, you know, and she'll joke about it. So, I got used to that. You know what I mean? You know, she mixed my name up with a cuss word in Samoan. You know? So it's supposed to be Kiunga, right? And, you know, Ufa, right? Kufa. So all those guys who are juniors, you know what I mean? Yeah. They probably heard that before in their life. You know what I mean? Real. You know, because there's a lot of Polynesians named Junior or Sam and Ben. Facts. You know what I'm talking about? You know, for some reason, you know, but.
Damn.
You know, so well, my mom did that to me a lot. You know what I'm saying?
And you kind of just like learned it. You got used to it. Yeah. What I think it comes from, if we're talking about like where your mom got it from, what I feel like is like going back to the Polynesian culture is, I do feel like traditional Polynesian parents don't want to show love for their kids in front of other people. Like, they get embarrassed.
There you go.
It's like, I don't want to be like, oh, I love you, son, because, you know, that's soft.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, she treating them like the palangis. Instead of like,
why
everything,
everything got to be palangi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Instead of like, damn, that's how you should love your kid. You should be obsessed with your kids, love them, and praise them, and those things build confidence. You know that, oh, my mom loves me. Like, but
yelling at a kid, I understand now. You know, it builds insecurity. You know, like he's doing something wrong right there. It's like, come here, Micah. Why did you do that? He's not going to care 5 minutes from there, you know. But if you hit him with that tomorrow, like, come here, son. You remember what you did yesterday? You know, son, you know, that wasn't the right thing to do. You know, he'll sit there and be like, wow, this is so important to him. You know what I mean? You know, he's still thinking about it the next day. You know what I mean? Yes, son. Dang. Next level stuff, son.
No,
you know what I mean?
Next, I'm 2 days ahead of you, boy. No.
But you know what I mean? True. You know, when your brothers and sisters see how I deal with them, though, they're like, what? You know what I mean? Daddy, you better get him. You know what I mean? Get him meaning what? You know what I mean?
He said, get what? I'm sitting right here.
You know, but what I am going to do is talk to him. You know what I'm saying? You know, and let them know, you know, with kids, man, when you know, like when you like after you talk to them and you hug them, man, you'll see in their face, man. You know what I mean? Like, you know, all my grandkids, I see it in their face. You know, like their mood to change. You know, like with Ace, you know, I play with him now different from then. You know, like I could barely be active with him. You know what I mean? But I'm so active with Papa right now. You know, that's, you know, I automatically did that with Ace. You know, and he told me if I could hold him until he goes to sleep, and I was like, yeah, you and Miles. He was like, no, not Miles, just me.
Yeah, that boy's selfish. Let me make. My eyes are bad.
Damn, how long you gonna grow your hair, man?
I'm gonna grow it out. I told Aubrey that if
Grow it out like the old you?
I told Aubrey that if I decide to cut it again, I'm gonna try dreads before I cut it,
Yeah,
just to try it out. But yeah,
it's a lot of maintenance.
it is. I know, but
But once it dump out, man, you just be like, dang, I'm here, but now what else?
nah, I feel that.
Because now I'm over here laying on my freaking hair, dude. Like, I wake up, I go to turn to go the other way, but my hair is caught right on my butt and stuff, you
Why
know?
don't
And
you
it's
wear a? Why don't you get a?
a cap, yeah.
Yeah, a bonnet.
By the time I wake up, my hair is all the way out. It's underneath me again. And I done tied it super extra tight. You know what I'm talking about? You know, and it never stays. You know what I mean? Because of the shape of my head, it'll go up, and it'll just come out. You know what I mean? So but unless if I leave like a little bun right here, it won't come out. It'll just be like right here and up this way. You know what I'm
And
talking
that's
about?
uncomfortable sometimes.
Well, no, I mean, he'll be up.
Oh, okay.
And then up this way. And the only reason why it stopped is because the bun. That's
Yeah.
it. Or else I would wear one of those all the
I
time.
feel
You know what
that.
I mean? Because like every time I get my hair dreaded up, I use a shirt,
Yeah.
and that helps fine. But I want to use a wave cap, but a shirt stays there. A
I
wave
feel
cap.
That makes sense.
My hair is not perfect like yours, man. I got a big cranium.
Nah, it's definitely large. Whatever say you
Oh.
look like a bulldog?
Oh, dang. Hope got my head. Me, Hope, and Robert. You know what I mean? Oh, me, Hope, and no, Robert got a regular head. Me, Hope, and Tony, man. We got them craniums. You know what I'm saying?
Tony definitely got his head. He got that head shape from you for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
But
No, but going back to what you're saying, I've definitely seen your growth and your progression, and I'm definitely not that like I'm trying to big bro you or anything. I'm just more like from a father to a father.
right.
It's just like no, I definitely am proud of how far you've come, and I see a lot of the changes you've been making, even just in the things you talk about. It's like, damn, I thought that nigga would never say some shit like that.
like what? Because I don't know. What do you think? Like what? Like
No,
what
just
type
like
of stuff? Like
just like saying like, oh yeah, you gotta be gentle and understanding. I'm like, hey, that's right, that's right.
all your brothers and sisters, they respond the same way, man.
But I'm also the type where it's just like I'm not the type to be like, oh, get him, because it's just more like, hey, no, like, hey,
yeah,
keep going, keep applying
That's
the
right.
things you learning. That's good. Like you're winning by doing that at the end of the day. Like it does. I get their frustration and understand like,
Oh no, they love, man. They love the me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
The me
okay,
now.
okay.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
good,
they
that's
love that. You know what I mean? They just, I mean, it's crazy. When you see
Mm-hmm.
Micah, like you hear a smack sound, and then he just hit Papa. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, what? And then the first thing they look at is who's finna get him now. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's getting him now. Everybody take a deep breath. You
For
know what I
real.
mean?
Where do you think? How do you think that you've gotten there? Because from what I've learned when it comes to like healing trauma and stuff, it's like it goes back to emotional regulation. When you start to be in tune with your emotions, be able to regulate yourself in high stress situations that you don't blow up, you're able to then be there to help other people regulate. So it's like same thing that you're saying with like when kids are being crazy or they're whatever they're doing.
Yes.
If you're not emotionally regulated, they can't emotionally regulate.
And one thing is, and all praises to the Most High, for, the reason why I think the way I think. You know what I mean? And you're right. We do have to regulate our emotions. Unfortunately, a lot of us find that out at an older age. You know what I mean? And that emotional regulation is needed.
Yep. We'll just end with these last little points and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Dang. How long we been in here?
I'll tell you right now. 1 second. We've been in here almost 2 hours. Well, we gotta end it there. Maybe we'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, it don't matter to me.